In my life, I often looked at God the Father as somebody that I didn't want to really have a lot to do with. Kind of scared me a bit. And I can remember preaching about, the Father's holiness and His righteousness, and all those things are definitely true. That's who our Father is. He is holy and mighty and righteous and perfect. But in my life, that often led to almost a fear of encountering with Him. And I was trying to figure out, how would I communicate that with you? In my life, the Father often reminded me of the Wizard of Oz. You remember the Wizard of Oz was the guy who was so powerful and so mighty and so other than that nobody in the land, nobody in the territory wanted to get in contact with him because he scared the pants off of you, right? Nobody wanted to have this personal relationship with him. And so that was kind of like my idea of who the Father was. He was just so other, so holy that I didn't want to have a relationship with him, and I sure enough didn't think he wanted to have a relationship with me. And then along comes Jesus, who is the intermediary. And for me, Jesus became the Dorothy character who kind of was in between, the Cowardly Lion and all the other characters. And she knew how to appease the anger of the wizard, the mighty Oz. And she got what everybody needed from him. And so for most of my life, I looked at the Father and the Son as if they operated from a good cop, bad cop scenario. And in my life, I rarely wanted to go to the Father because he was always the bad cop. He was the guy who was always going to squash me or crush me or do something. He was going to, punish me for something that maybe I didn't even know I did. What I want you to hear tonight is that's nowhere near what the Bible has to say. And yet that's kind of the religion that I was brought up in. And maybe some of you kind of felt that same way, is that, like Gail was telling us, a lot of people feel like God's punishing me because I did something, and you may not even know what you did. And Jesus said, if you've seen me, what's the rest of that verse? If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. And man, I've known that verse my whole life probably, but I've never really stopped to think, what was Jesus really saying there? If you've seen me, you have seen the Father. In other words, I am the actual physical flesh and blood display of what the Father's like. And as I begin to look through that and think that through, I'm beginning to understand that the Father isn't this cruel ogre that I kind of thought he was. Now, nobody told me he was, but just my theology taught me that I didn't want to have much to do with the Father. And yet I see in the Lord Jesus Christ, He is saying, you can trust the Father, you can trust me. Jesus wants you to know is that it's love that transforms. Fear changes you for a season. Love transforms you for eternity. 2 Corinthians 5 says that the Father was in the Son reconciling the world to Himself in the cross. It wasn't just the Son doing the reconciliation. It was the Father and the Son joining together to reconcile us to Himself. I want you to become increasingly aware of God's unbelievable and undeniable love for you. And then in that awareness, that you will begin to see the doors of life change open up to you.
To know you is to walk.